Yes, sir, please, go ahead.
I'm not so much into having the background of this, but I have to agree with Commissioner Zimmerling. I mean, they wanted to do a presentation, and you basically told them we never did that before. Not meaning anything, it sounds like a church meeting where we never did that before. It doesn't make any difference that we never did that
We've
before.
never afforded
I mean, that's-
anybody
well, but-
the opportunity to do a PowerPoint presentation. I have no problems with Mr. Frasconi or Ms. Young making their argument regarding their allegations pertaining to Mr. Mahoney. I have no problems hearing them speak in regard to that, and I will take that matter into consideration. I don't know what I don't know what they are going to present to
Well,
us.
allow them to present it. We had one individual who brought in a big chart and had a stick to point. Well, they have one on electronic. You're talking, I mean, that's just silliness to continue wasting time.
That's basically what I had to say. I mean, you know, just
Any
because we
other
never did it
comments
before.
before we let Rob continue?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Zimmerling stated that it takes one commissioner, I guess, to request be put on the agenda. Whose wise decision was it not to be placed on the agenda today? And why wasn't it placed on the agenda?
Mr. Blosser?
I couldn't get nobody to attest to it, plus at that point in
What
time,
do you mean the
I
test?
can't hear
What do you
what
mean
you
the
say.
test to it?
to say that they would request.
Did you not receive my email?
Yours I did, yes. The
Okay,
other two-
am I?
The other two said that they didn't have the time
To do it. Okay,
to do it.
okay, well, but still, it should have been placed on the agenda. And don't let it happen again because I am an equal member here, okay?
And rather
But
than
then-
a
but
dispute being
let's-
between you and Mr. Blosser, I believe it needs to be with the chair.
No, I am set.
I-
Wait,
the chair-
stop.
The chair had talked to Mr. Blosser about the agenda.
Cheryl, I'm a commissioner, I'm also a
Yes.
supervisor, so don't direct me on who to talk to, okay? Hold on,
Not talk, but your
listen,
disagreement
the
is
next
with the
time,
chair.
the next time I ask for it, place it on the agenda. Let's move on,
But
okay?
that's up to the chair.
No, it isn't.
If the
No, it isn't.
chair set a proposed agenda, then at the beginning of the meeting, I looked up Robert's rules while we had this discussion.
It's been done before, and I'm not gonna go into Robert's rules.
And in order to
Oh, we're
make
not gonna
any
comply with
changes-
Robert's
No,
rules?
I'm not gonna go into that argument now. We're set for time. We're set for time here.
I'm not meaning to argue, but I wanted to be clear, because I don't think it's fair for Mr. Blosser to get an ear beating when there's a disagreement between
Okay,
commissioners.
you're not his counsel, but let's move on that. The thing is that,
So
is
at
that
the
it,
At the beginning of the meeting,
this
there could be
this
a
board,
a
Cheryl,
change to the proposed
Counselor,
amendment.
this board has had election board members ask for an item to be placed on the agenda, and it was placed on. The same with other boards, okay? Now, it's on, we need to move on. I'm not gonna argue this point here, because that's wasting even more time.
The comment could still be made under public comment, which is your point, I believe,
Let's-
and that's not on the agenda.
Let's move on.
For the record, I have to agree with the solicitor that, that since we did, there was at least two commissioners that were pressed for time for today. And it was the chair's opinion that the items here have already been handled in previous meetings. So Rob, if you could go ahead.
Two other things though, okay, just to, not only the press for time, the chair does not make that decision on whether or not something can go on an agenda and have a discussion, we can still do that. And thirdly, if there was press for time, I did give dates for next week. Mr. Blosser, did you receive?
Yes, I did.
Did you receive anyone else's?
No.
Okay, so all day next week I'm available as well, but you didn't receive anything from the
No.
other two?
And I actually even checked with the solicitor to see her available.
Okay, well, we've got 25 minutes that we could have had a presentation.
Rob, if you could go ahead, I'd appreciate more of a summary type approach here.
All right. Do you want me to just sum somewhat?
Do you want me to give this to them
We can submit
first?
that via,
Well, let's,
you know.
let's ask
Okay,
when,
but
let's
go
ask
ahead.
when fellow board members have to leave. I'm
Okay,
available.
but yeah, you can
Commissioner
begin.
Everseen,
I have
I don't
I
care.
have 8 minutes.
Okay, and Commissioner Zabatowski, how long do you have?
Well, 8 minutes.
Ample time.
8 minutes is rather,
No, wait. A quorum will be present. So
Okay.
Commissioner
Give
Everseen
ample
has to
time
leave you
based
to
on what we have before us.
all right. Basically, well, for the 8 minutes, basically.
You don't have 8 minutes, don't
Okay,
rush.
all right.
Okay?
So
Do it in an orderly fashion.
is there a way that I can get this on the screen, this projector?
Is there a screen in there? Okay, good.
Fire it up.
Never,
I'll fire it up. And basically all we have here are files that we are going to project. It's just information that we have compiled in one file and that we intend to project. And I'm going to start with the timeline for August 9, 2011, which was the date that State Representative Tim Mahoney submitted his petitions and affidavits of circulator. And here is a copy of that timeline, as it was outlined in our complaint. Basically, State Representative Tim Mahoney circulated a petition prior to August 9, 2011. In court, he testified that the date of circulation was, for the referendum petitions, was, hopefully I can work this technologically a little bit, maybe a little, I don't know if it's closer or farther away, Larry?
you're
If you move it back, I think it gets it more
Move it back or forward?
forward.
Ms. Hyde, would this be deemed as evidence in a matter that would be before the district attorney? Should the district attorney,
These would be additional items that could be submitted to the district attorney without knowing more about how the information was accumulated. I wouldn't call it evidence, but it would be information that I'm sure the district attorney would want if there's something that he doesn't have.
All right.
Mr. Blosser, maybe a little more forward.
it's blurry.
I'm sorry. Perhaps on a wall would be better? I'm
Or you don't
uncertain.
have a straight ball.
Okay, well, I can just tip it then. Okay, basically, prior to 3:26 p.m., the Fayette County Election Bureau Director, Larry Blosser, communicates to Mahoney that he needs to cite the statutory authorizing authority for his petitions. He does so, and that is the only time he does so, in a 2-page letter that he submits to the Fayette County Election Bureau, bundled together with petitions 1 through 42, absent any affidavits of circulator. The date stamp on or the time stamp for the day on the first page of the petition, or I mean the letter, is 3:26 p.m. and the second page is 3:27 p.m. He submits a separate question separate from the declarative statement that he had on his petitions. At the top of his petitions was no question, and it read, "We, the undersigned qualified electors residing in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, support the dissolution of the individual school districts, school boards, and administrations while preserving individual school districts within Fayette County, Pennsylvania, and we support the establishment of an elected county school board and the appointment of an administration to oversee all school districts located within Fayette County."
If I may ask you a question, Mr. Frasconi.
Yes.
Is that an instruction on the affidavit that the signator know what they are signing?
Yes, it should, the authorizing statutory authority should appear at the top of the petitions, but it is not a requirement.
Okay, and,
The statutory authority was never outlined by Representative Mahoney, save for his letter of August 9 when he laid it down in front of Mr. Blosser at 3:26 p.m.
okay, but you're reading off of a petition where it clearly indicates the intent of the petition,
Right,
correct?
I don't have any quibble with the intent,
Okay.
but there was a separate ballot question submitted. It also is at 3:26 p.m. So what happened was, is Representative Mahoney comes into the Election Bureau to submit his petitions on August 9, 2011. He has bundled with him the question, the letter, and his petitions, absent any affidavits of circulator. Now, the interesting thing about the petitions, as we all know, which was a contention in the case, was that there were no dates set opposite the name,
Which is a
which
requirement.
is a requirement